Hello, everyone. I'm Ece from the CFA board, Ece Mandacı, CFA from the CFA board, and I'm also an equity research analyst at Ünlü Securities. And today we will discuss about the skills the professionals will need to thrive in the digital changing world. Before starting the discussions, I would like to ask you two Slido questions. Can we see on the screen? From the QR code, the first question, you can cast your vote on, So the first question is, what percentage of jobs in the financial sector do you believe AI will replace in the next decade? Less than 25%, 25 to 40%, 40% to 60%, and more than 60%. That is the first question. We are waiting for a few seconds. Can we see the answers? Oh, very low percentage. It's definitely different compared to the LinkedIn expectations that, it's not a similar question, but LinkedIn expects that 70% of job skills will change in the next 5-6 years. So this is a very optimistic conclusion, I would say. So we can have the second question now. Which skills do you believe will be most important for success in the future? Analytical thinking, negotiating skills, emotional intelligence, and networking. And the answers, please. Emotional intelligence has got the most of the votes, and we have a more balanced distribution for the other answers. Now, I would like to reintroduce our speakers for this panel. Mr. Rob Langrick, CFA. He is the Chief Product Advocate at the CFA Institute, based in New York. He has over 25 years of experience, and he's been in the CFA Institute for the past 7 years. Tim Bright, he is partner in One World Consulting. Tim is based in Istanbul. He provides executive search, leadership coaching, and outplacement services with over 30 years consulting experience. He worked in China, US, UK, and Middle East before. Ertunç Tümen, CFA. Is the Executive Vice President at AK Asset Management, based in Istanbul, with over 30 years of experience in asset management industry. He was honored as the Global Volunteer of the Year by the CFA Institute in 2020 and 2014. He is also the author of the book Exploring the Individual's Journey to Excellence. So thank you for coming here. And I would like to start with Rob, about his perspective from the standpoint of CFA. So the CFA program has always emphasized technical excellence, as we all know. As we look to the future, what new skills do you believe will define the successful investment professional? How can investment professionals stay ahead of these changes? Please, Rob.
Well, thanks for inviting the Mothership to this wonderful conference. Really appreciate it. Real privilege. Thinking about new skills, we think about new skills all the time, so I found this survey particularly interesting. I think the answer to that question is somewhat role dependent. So, for instance, obviously, if you're a digital assets analyst, you're going to have to go deep on digital assets, which is a fairly new topic domain. And there are many like that, like climate, for instance. There are some specific climate analysts who have to go very deep on that. In terms of kind of lowest common denominator skills that are perhaps more applicable to a broader set of people, we certainly see two that have been bubbling up now for several years. So when you look at valuations, for instance, since the GFC, multiples and spreads have been more and more dependent upon macroeconomics and less so on fundamentals, funnily enough. So you've elements of sentiment in there in PE ratios, for instance, and obviously geopolitics can affect spreads. And so the ability to look at economic indicators and pass them and form a view on the yield curve and on financial conditions is more and more important. And traditionally, that's not actually been very well taught formally. So as you can expect, CFA Institute's thinking a lot about that so that you can form an opinion, form a view, and then tilt your portfolio, hopefully to drive some outperformance against benchmark based on your views being correct, but really the ability to generate alpha based on macroeconomic analysis is more and more important these days. I'd say the other big one, this conference is actually a great spread showing the main kind of new skills. Actually, I think the only one I've seen missing so far is private markets. I'm sure that will come up through the day. You've covered everything else in terms of the hot new skills today. But I would say going to the Microsoft presentation, Microsoft Excel is the most popular application in the world, and it's the #1 tool in finance. But we really have a view, quite an interesting one. People say, is Python going to kill Excel? We don't think the opposite is quite true, but we do think that Excel will become the main gateway into Python, because with Copilot, there's a new natural language prompting system. So if you use the words use advanced analytics in Copilot and Excel, it's a secret language to say, go and use Python for me. And it will go through all the Python libraries and use it to query the spreadsheet you have loaded and actually do the analysis for you. So I saw a wonderful demo at the Microsoft Excel Summit early this year in London when someone had a sheet up with health data in it and asked Copilot, hey, what's the main driver on this health data of body mass? And they use advanced analytics, which is secret for Python, and the user didn't even know or didn't need to know Python was there in the background. And it ran a load of ML models, algorithms, random forest and so on, and actually found the best correlation and said in the spreadsheet, it's this row, it's this cell value, has an 82% R squared with body mass. So thinking back to my days as an equity research analyst 25 years ago more in London, that's the kind of insight you could sort of write an 80-page research report on. And the whole note could hinge on that single insight that had taken 1 or 2 weeks to find. And then, of course, you've got to write the note. And so it did it in 15 seconds. And so it's like Notebook LM can query PDF Word documents for you, but now Excel can query spreadsheets for you with natural language. So you actually see the popularity of learning Python going down. If you look at the Google search, the actual trends on Google for people wanting to learn Python, it's going down. And the reason it's going down is people now are learning to natural language prompt Python. So we think that's going to be a huge skill. If you don't learn that as a junior, other juniors who do learn that are going to take your job from you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you very much for sharing. And in addition to the skills you have mentioned about improving your technical capabilities in Python, etc., I would like to also draw attention to other skill sets that will be necessary going forward. So I would like to ask you, Tim, in light of the growing importance of augmented intelligence, which skills do you foresee becoming more essential, and how should professionals adapt to these shifts in the coming years?
Thank you. I mean, it's a classic question that we're all thinking about, and it's quite scary. I mean, let's be honest. People are nervous. I'm in the professional coaching recruitment world, and I saw on Saturday a friend of mine working in the UK has created an AI podcast simply by uploading an article, choosing an important research article that they thought was important, and asked the model, prepare a podcast based on this. One prompt. And he's prepared a very good podcast. And he's got 45 of these podcasts on his website. And it's two people talking, sounds very natural, they interrupt each other. And when you think, podcasts can now be generated, the entire episode from one prompt and one article, it's worrying to people like us. So, our business as One World Consulting, fundamentally we have two different things. We do recruitment and we do coaching. And if we look at that, in coaching we say, at conferences like this, for coaching conferences, will your coach, as a coach, will you lose your job to an AI bot? We've been talking about for 10 years now. And generally I think the answer is no, but you will lose your job to a coach who uses an AI bot or who's using AI better than you. And I think probably the same applies to the CFAs as well. If we look at, and there's a lot of benefits for AI in coaching. If we look at recruitment, what we're now seeing is candidates generating thousands of job applications with bots and firing them at companies, and then companies having bots to field these thousands of applications. So the candidate bots talking to the client, the company bots, and really not adding a lot of value, to be honest. And if AI is being used in recruitment, often it's being trained on the existing leadership of the company and then looking for those competencies in candidates. And that has huge negative DEI implications as well. So I think it's all about context. We need to look about the context of it. We can't ignore it. Saying that we're going to ignore AI clearly isn't going to work. It would be like saying ignore Google. And 20 years ago, I think maybe 30 years ago, when I was using Alta Vista, and a few of you might be old enough to remember when there were other bots, other search engines, but now saying I'm not going to use Google sounds crazy. And I think in 2 or 3 years' time, that's exactly how we'll react to people who are not using AI. But as computers become better at being computers, humans have to become better at being human. So I think we need to emphasize our human qualities. And there's different ways of thinking about what they are. But one way I like is the 4 C's, that humans do better than computers, or that computers can't do at all. And I would say creativity, collaboration, curiosity, and consciousness. Those 4 C's, creativity, collaboration, curiosity, consciousness, are things that either robots, computers cannot do, or humans will do significantly better. And when we're using AI, I think it was interesting in Levent's from Microsoft's presentation, and they talk about Copilot, but I think there's fundamentally 2 ways we use AI at the moment, and I think we need to be more conscious about how we're using AI. Are we using it as a productivity assistant? And when we do that, we tend to talk to the AI and wait for us. We ask the AI, we get an answer, and we go quickly. And Rob's just given a great example where we're going quickly, and it's a productivity assistant and helping our productivity. The other way to use AI is as a co-thinker. And rather than asking questions, you have a conversation with AI, and you have a back and forth conversation. And rather than helping you go quickly, it helps you ponder more, reflect. It helps you think better. And fundamentally, we always need judgment. Excel is a terrific tool, and I'm probably the least good person at Excel in the room. But as far as I know, Excel is always reliable. And when you make the right query to Excel, you always get the right answer, and you always get the same answer. That's not the same for AI. Exactly the same query at a different moment can give you a different answer. And we all know it's not always reliable. So we need our human judgment all the time and being intentional about how we use AI. So it's not about, will it take jobs? I think it will change jobs. And that's, I think, what LinkedIn was saying. It will change jobs. But it's about how we use AI better.
Thank you about sharing the human element, the importance of human element in having skills going forward. And for success. And I would also ask you, Ertunç, about the skills. Do you believe which skills will be most critical for professionals in the asset management industry to stay competitive and create value?
Thank you. Actually, it's one of the most difficult questions I have ever been exposed to, because it's really dreaming about the future, and dreaming about the future is a very hard task, especially correctly. And being correct in your projections is the most difficult part. So I'm really thinking, as a business manager in the asset management industry, I'm asking myself, how will the asset management business be performed in the future? So given this contextual evolution, including new technologies, and how will the new human and machine interaction will happen over in our industry? So this is the question. and what will be the value propositions of our industry for the economies and for the people? So I'm actually curious about the division of labor between us and the machines. So, and also the degree of collaboration between human and machine. So these are the questions. I wanted to deconstruct the question to a few questions. And there are things that already impacting our business before AI, because there are many trends and challenges. And there are things that are new and that are going to be impacting us in the future. And one of them is we are already in an alpha paradox, because we believe in efficient markets, and technology is making markets much more efficient. We are knowing that. And if you look at the performance of the active managers, we are seeing that they cannot beat the markets in a consistent manner. This is a big problem. So we are seeing a big shift from the active to passive. So this is a reality of us, and this continues for many, many years. So, and the technology will make it difficult to extract alpha without help of machines. And we know that the wheels of the economy is turning faster and faster, and it's going to be even faster. So with the coming of the quantum technology, so the processing capacity and the speed of this change will be higher in the future. So it will be much more difficult for us to cope with that. So that 15 seconds is still a very long time, And also we are living in an age of data explosion. So every bit of thing is turning into digital data, and the digital lakes are becoming digital seas, and they are becoming digital oceans. And so it's becoming much more difficult to find and extract the potential alpha factor out of that pool. So everything is there. So all knowable things exist in a cloud, in a digital thing over there. But we are less and less capable in terms of extracting that valuable alpha signal out of that data. So, and also the networks, we are getting fully integrated. Before, information was integrated into that cloud. Now everything, every physical thing is turning into a sensor and sensing the world around us and turning that things into data and puts into the cloud. And we are not aware of the things. So we are, even it's out of the scope of humanity, those things that are being sensed. So the Web 3.0, there's a huge knowledge database over there. We have access, and everything has access to that. And now the value system is integrated into that with Web 3.0, which is the decentralized, the cryptocurrencies and blockchains as ownership registries, and smart contracts and those type of things. There's a value infrastructure made of a digital network. So what's happening to the companies? So because we are investing in companies, and if you look at the average lifespan of a S&P 500 company, it used to be 70 years. Now it's 15 years. So this will have some impact on our DCF models, because we have something called terminal value, and it's almost 100% that terminal is not more than 15 years. So it's, or at least for half. So this is an important thing. We have to use new models to make valuation of the companies. And the problem is bigger, because the companies are staying private for longer. So in the public markets, we are seeing that it takes for an average company to go to IPO from 7 years to 11 years. So average life 15 years, average time to IPO 11 years. So we have, so this is a problem for an active manager or alpha seeker, because everything is already happened in the private space. So this is a threat and an opportunity for someone who is looking for alpha, because they have to look for the alpha not in the public markets, but in the private markets. So private markets is really becoming the real source of alpha. That's why we are seeing a venture capital industry, and I think it's where human will stay most. So it will be mostly human, because it's an art thing. It's imaginary creation, and you have to get your hands into that. And it's as it's an art and it's a creation, and it's going to be made by human intelligence. And as a final point, so in the public markets, I believe the alpha will be very difficult to extract, and without using technology properly, it will be impossible for the human intelligence to extract alpha out of the market. And it's not, and about adding skills into individuals, I think we have to change the paradigm over there as well. We have to think like startups in this world, because startups are teams of multidisciplinary teams comprised of different skill sets in different people, which is integrated into AI, and which is integrated into different technologies, data analysts, and so teams will be much more important than risk-skilled individuals, as far as I think. And as a final point, the machines will become more intelligent, and this intelligence will be more autonomous intelligence. So we will be seeing security analysts, agentic security analysts, and agentic portfolio managers, but they will work with CIOs and the security analysts. And I think they will apply directly to the agentic analysts will apply for jobs as well, as a point to Tim's point. And that's what I see.
Thank you very much for your detailed answers about alpha generating, how people will differentiate going forward. And I would like to ask you, Rob, again, how CFA charter holders or CFA charter will evolve to better prepare candidates for this full spectrum of skills needed for the future?
Yeah, it's a good question. Obviously, we're thinking very much about this. The key thing is we've been evolving since 1963, so there's always been new stuff. So when you think back over that time period, it's quite surprising the things that have actually happened and then have become new skills to learn. So I'm sure many of you have performance measurement teams. Attribution was literally invented in 1986 and then went into the curriculum shortly after that. Some instruments are very new, obviously digital assets, ETFs, 1993. So there's all this new stuff that happens and then kind of goes into the curriculum. That's happened all the time. In recent history, we've woven Bloomberg into the curriculum, so it's kind of 2 for 1. You get to learn Bloomberg as you go through the CFA program now. But I'd say the biggest innovation we've had on the skills front was quite recent. So we introduced in 2024 something called practical skills modules, which are 15 hours hands-on exercises, so learning about financial modeling, Python, macro analysis, for instance, which is required of CFA candidates now. They have to do that to get through the CFA program. And so we'll see that suite expand, and we're always looking for new skill areas to add. I think there's one important point to make, though. I think it was Malcolm Gladwell who said it takes 10,000 hours to master anything, whether it's the violin or piano or finance for that matter. Maybe you don't master it in 10,000 hours even, but it illustrates the point. It's several years before you get dangerous at something. But when you think about the CFA program, it's only 300 hours per level and 3 levels. So that's 900 hours, right? It's less than 10% of the Malcolm Gladwell number. So we cannot put everything into the CFA program. It's too small. And so what's really critical for CFA charter holders to embrace is lifelong learning. That's really where you're going to get the skills. And there'll be stuff that happened since you got the charter. So climate change is a much bigger issue now than when I got the charter many moons ago. And so really the place to learn new skills is primarily lifelong learning. Stay curious and look for opportunities to learn. We love certificates at CFA Institute. There are many opportunities to stay up to date on all the skills we've been talking about, but that's really the key place to learn them.
Thank you. And Tim, you have a strong background in executive placement and coaching. So with your experience, how can leaders can differentiate themselves? You previously, in your previous discussions, you highlighted about authenticity for leadership while adapting their skills to different cultural and organizational environments. So how can leaders can differentiate themselves in the new technological era, let's say?
And I think it's a great question, and as I said, we need to be more human. You know, we shouldn't be copying AI, we should be more human. And part of that, I think, is about authenticity. And you asked about leaders. You know, what's the definition of a leader? At a very basic level, a leader is somebody who has followers. You know, if you don't have followers, you're not a leader. And so I think looking at followership is interesting. You know, what does followership mean? Who do we want to follow? And we don't want to follow algorithms and black boxes. We want to follow people, you know, and we want to see that our leaders are authentic people. And I think that's so important. So I think it's about having your authenticity. And we talk about that quite often in coaching and also in recruitment. You know, is this person authentic? And I think authenticity isn't like a black or white factor. We see it more as a dimension. And if you think about a dimension, at one end you might have over-authentic, someone who's too authentic, and at the other end you might have someone who's too managed. And we talk about this balance of managed authenticity. So yeah, you need to be yourself, but you need to manage how you're being yourself. One of the great articles from Harvard Business Review from a few years ago was, "Why should anyone be led by you?" And at the end of that article, they have a great sentence, which I think sums it up, which is, "Be yourself more with skill." And I think it's about being more of yourself. It's not about sort of copying other people or trying to lead like other people. It's about knowing yourself and being yourself more. You need to manage yourself. You need to manage how you present yourself. But if you're over-managed, you become fake and people don't want to follow you. If you're over-authentic, you seem inefficient and, again, not worth following. So I think it's that balance. But fundamentally, you know, be yourself. Be more yourself, you know, be more of yourself, but do it with skill.
Thank you. And Ertunç, you often emphasize the role of institutional systems in individual development. In light of today's technological transformations and changes in the economic structure, how can systems change to help people reach their full potential? And what role should individuals play in this change?
Thank you very much. Actually, this is the subject of my book, the relation between an individual's road to excellence or journey to excellence and the role of systems play in helping individuals to reach excellence. So this is a loop type of thinking. So yesterday, I discovered that one of my favorite poets, Ahmet Hamdi Tanpınar, said something, and I loved it, and I wanted to share it here. And he said, life around us is the thing that creates us. And we get all our attributes from our exterior surrounding, which is always in a change and forces us to change. You know, he said this 100 years ago. So he's, while our republic is being created and the modernism, he's one of the novelists of those periods. So I really love that. So he's becoming popular these days again because the way of thinking, now we are trying to understand what individual excellence means and how the context matters a lot about bringing the individual excellence out of an individual. So, so you cannot separate these two concepts, the individual excellence and the institutional excellence. These are the same. These are different sides of the same coin. And this is something very much forgotten or disregarded. And whenever you do this, you forget a very important thing, and you remain in a very suboptimal state as a society. And I think we call it the middle income trap. So when everybody has problems in creating good collective outcomes. So when life is becoming more complex with really the advance of the technology, and the problems are becoming more complex, and like finding alpha, Yeah, you see, we spent 2 weeks to find a point, an alpha point, an information gap. Now it's becoming even more because a big chunk of data there is, and you cannot access it instantly. And so the life's problems are becoming much more complex. So they are becoming problem bundles. And we call them system problems or problem systems, however you like, we may call it. But the only way to solve a problem, systems problem, is to change your paradigm. So you have to look at that problem bundle from a design perspective. So you have to look at the design principle of that problem, and you have to redesign the system. So this is called design thinking. So in a complex world where the problems are getting more complex, like societal problems, we have to use a different way of thinking, which is called design thinking. And from education to transportation, whatever, to finance systems, we are all living in systems, and we are all part of systems. And as Daron Acemoğlu puts very frequently and very correctly, the societies that have the social capacity to create inclusive systems is really creating the capacity and the potential of the individuals living in that system. So it's really very important for a leader to be a systems thinker and systems builder and a systems doctor. So in a complex world, I think this is the most important attribute of a leader.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. As an additional note, I would like to just give an information about the most recent CFA report on skills and future of skills and learning. And in the report, it's saying that the combination of skills, leadership and T-shaped skills will be important for success. And Rob, I would like to ask you your thoughts about the T-shaped skills. What I mean by T-shaped skills, it's the combining deep expertise in one domain with broader knowledge in other fields and connecting across disciplines. This is the main highlights of that report as well. And how should the investment industry be structured to accommodate this? And what advantages do you see in building T-shaped skills for the industry and for the CFA charter holders?
Well, I'll start with the benefits of being a multidisciplinary person, having a foot in 2 or 3 camps. It is really the highest order skill of a portfolio manager is asking great questions. Because it's when you fail to ask a certain question that the bad things happen. The failure of your imagination to imagine a certain outcome or scenario. And so people with their foot in many camps tend to ask better questions. And so unless, if you're broader than narrower, you're going to have a better kind of risk, a sense for risk than other people. That's the benefit. In terms of how we structure the industry, a few things have changed over my career. So I graduated in 1999. And when we think about college and recruiting and then the way the industry structure has changed over the years, over that time period, more and more people were studying finance at undergraduate. And so when you look at the mix of people in finance globally, by far the number 1 bucket is finance, number 2 is economics, by the way. And so you actually have some people who have just kind of done finance, so they don't have another discipline. So that's been a certain thing that's happened. It's now kind of redressing. Banks are hiring more STEM people now, for instance, and rediscovering the benefit of being a generalist. I think that's one trend that happened. So from a recruitment perspective, that's changed as well. Although we're going full circle, in the 1990s, Goldman was famous for hiring people from wacky subjects like medieval poetry, and in particular, politics, philosophy, and economics at Oxford University, which is probably one of the best generalist degrees you can get, actually, worldwide. So maybe they knew something back then. So I think T-shaped skills are very important. I think the other thing that happened, actually, with the TMT boom in 1999 was the banks all built these very deep sector specialist teams. You had to get more and more advanced on things like semiconductors and consumer internet. And then those people got promoted to portfolio manager and CIO, and they did finance degrees and just focused on one sector. Guess what? They didn't have that broad view you need for risk analysis and asking great questions. So I think that's become more clear since the GFC now, getting good on macro and geopolitics, things you weren't trained on if you just were narrow. So I think the whole industry is becoming more T-shaped now. People are starting to appreciate the benefit of combining disciplines.
Mm-hmm. Thank you for your answers. And Tim, building your previous comments on adapting skills and efficiently using AI, how can we ensure that humans and AI work together in ways that enhance rather than replace human judgment and decision making?
Thanks. I think it's always about and thinking rather than about or thinking. We think, is it this or is it this? Is it a bot or is it this? And I think much more often the right answer is and. It's this and that. If we look at, there's different ways of looking at careers, but if we look at a sort of simple value pyramid, it's clear at the moment that the jobs that are most under threat are kind of in the middle of that pyramid. If you're right at the top or right at the bottom, you're probably safer. I'm at the age where I've got relatives in care homes in the UK, and you realize there's a huge need for people working in care homes, giving physical care to people, and that's expanding massively. And while I was there recently, thinking, what we need tech and we need people. With someone looking after an elderly person in a care home, I want there to be technology checking on things and raising certain alarms and giving me certain information. But I also really want a person to be there as well. I don't want the alarm to be making the decision about what to do. So this combination of, I want to use the tech, but we need the human judgment as well. And I'm a buyer of investment advice. And I expect the people selling me investment advice to be using AI tools, but still, at least at the moment, I want a person giving me that advice, and I want a person who's using those tools. So I think it's always about that combination of tech and human judgment. And I think if we look at what do humans bring to it that AI doesn't, as well as what I talked about before, I think humans bring context, which often AI doesn't. We bring nuance, challenge, and validation. We often want this human validation of what's happening. So I think it's always about both. And just as an example, and going back in time, some of you won't be old enough to remember, but you can Google the Big Bang in the London financial markets in 1986. And I was in the UK at the time, and people said, massive increase in liberalisation and technology in the City of London in 1986. And the City of London, 1 square mile, is famous for having incredibly high property prices. And people said, after the Big Bang, those property prices are going to drop. So you should be selling your property portfolios because it's all going to be technology. You won't need to be there. And of course, the opposite happened. Because when everybody had the same information a few seconds apart, and suddenly that data became widely spread, the nuances that you could pick up in the coffee shop became even more useful. And what happened after the massive investments in technology was property prices in the City of London went up even higher. So, it's not either or, it's usually the and.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Thank you very much for the points you have shared. I mean, even the technology is advancing the real elements of living as a human. Yeah. I mean, any touches, living in the city, etc. Still, that will continue to be the parts of our life. Even we see advancement in technology. So, in the context of advancing technology, what role should the financial profession play in optimizing capital allocation while also fostering human development and collective value creation?
Thank you very much. This is a very important question because it's about the reason of existence of the asset management industry. So this is the value we create to the society because we make the efficient allocation of capital to the best expected return areas, and we are doing that on behalf of people who doesn't have financial literacy or the capacity or the know-how to do that. So it's a very important function, and it has to stay healthy. And so we are a bridge, just like the investment banking and traditional banking, in terms of bringing the savings of the savers, individuals and institutions, and who demand the use of that capital. And this will stay. And this function is an important function of the a healthy market economy, a healthy capitalist market economy, and this will stay. So, but there is something I think that needs to be better, and what excites me most about, especially the CFA Institute, I'm working as a volunteer for the CFA Institute, is its purpose, actually. It's creating a finance industry that better serves the society. So this is a very big thing, and whatever happens to the technology, this will stay as well. So creating a finance industry that better serves the society, and this purpose will prevail as well. So our function will prevail, and our purpose will prevail, and will act like a compass, and also put a burden on all of us, all ourselves, and because it's the reason of existence we doing our job. And also it's our responsibility against our society. But in terms of the allocation for the good of the people, right allocation, a better optimization for the good of the society, I think we have something to do. I think I took my CFA charter holder at 2003, so it has been a long time. And we were using just simple mean variance optimizations. And mean variance optimizations, as you know, as a backward-oriented optimization. It looks at historical data to make inferences. And through time, and I remember in 2008, we started to work on Black-Litterman type optimizations. And what Black-Litterman type optimizations mean, it's a forward-looking optimization. It embeds the market expectations into that. And also it embeds the current market status, so from here to future. So the optimizations turned more forward-looking. So the evolution continued. And very recently, as CFA Institute very correctly and very responsibly undertaken, there came the ESG. The ESG is a constraint that has been put within this function of optimization. So you cannot optimize irresponsibly. You cannot harm the world. You cannot harm the people because you have social responsibility against the society. Because our purpose is to create a society that better, create an industry that better serves the society. But this is not over yet. So we have to find better optimizations, not just rational and questionably rational homo economicus, but rather like a philanthropic human, so I believe. So we have to find new ways of optimizations to create a better world, a better Mother Earth, a better society, and this puts a big responsibility on us to find the technical solution to that.
Thank you very much for your insightful comments, and this concludes our panel. Thank you for listening. Now we can have a photo together.